So today's Cup of Joe lesson, I want to talk to you about a couple things. One is motivation and how we use it to either motivate ourselves or what happens when we feel a lack of it. And the other part of this is another magic question for you. How many of us always wish we felt motivated, right? Or you have those days where you just wake up and you feel motivated. Or maybe there's some kind of a life event that happens and it motivates you, right? But what happens? Eventually, that motivation wears off, right? Then that's the problem. When you start a new project, you're excited about it, you've got a lot of motivation in the beginning, and you keep going, but then you abandon the project as the motivation wears off. January 1st, it's New Year's time. Everybody's excited to get in shape. They set all those New Year's resolutions. They're motivated. And then what happens? By February, March, motivation drops. And then people give up. They quit. They don't keep going to the gym. We see this cycle over and over and over again. So this got me curious. It's got me studying this cycle of motivation every once in a while. And what do we say? Just think about this for a second. When we say the word motivation, usually it is also accompanied by the word feel, isn't it? I want to feel motivated. I don't feel motivated. I'm feeling motivated. So feeling has a lot to do with this word motivation, but let's dissect it even more. Motivation, the first part of this word, motive, comes from a Latin word, motivus, the modern day translation of which is motive. Yes, or another way to say motive is reason. So the first part of motivation is reason, okay? Now keep going. We're going to go down to the second part of the word, which is ation or action. It derives from that part of the word action. So motivation, reason, action. See where we're going with this? So a reason to move or a reason to do. That is usually what accompanies motivation. That's what accompanies motivation that sticks anyway. The problem is a lot of us, and this is what happens, right? You lose your reason to do. You lose your reason to act. And so beginning a new year, you have this reason. Your reason might be, well, it's a new year. I want to get in the best shape of my life, or I finally want to finish my book. But then what happens? Your reason kind of falls to the side. And you hear this all the time, and I hear this all the time, and I get almost slightly annoyed by it because people always say, you've got to find your why. And I think that's been said so much that it's kind of been diluted. Find your why. What's your why? And some of us were just like, I don't really know my why. I've always struggled with this. I'm like, I don't really know yet. And so if I'm just basing my reason or my motivation on my why, unless I have a very clear picture of my why, I don't really stay motivated. But there is a solution. And that solution comes in the form of a question that triggers the thing that we're all after anyways, which is a feeling. So the question is, how would you feel if? And I'm going to show you some very strategic ways to use this question in order to instantly increase your motivation and in order to make sure it is sustainable and stays with you over the long term. It doesn't just fall by the wayside. So let's go through this. How would you feel if you lost everything? Because see, this goes both ways. You can use motivation in two areas of the major drivers of human performance, which is to avoid loss and to potentially gain something. Those are the two main drivers of human beings. We want to avoid loss and we want to feel like we can gain pleasure or gain something of value, right? So how would you feel if you lost everything? If you can attach that to your task, to your project, to whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, you have to up that necessity of why you need to do the thing. There's a reason, right? So fast forward. If there's something that's big on the line and you know that you could lose out big time here, go there and feel that. How would you feel if you turn this around? All right, now flip it. Think about how great it would feel if you turned it around. If you're in a hard situation, if you're going through a struggle right now, if you know you have the potential to turn that around based on your actions, but you're just struggling because those actions are maybe hard or you just don't really want to do it, you don't feel like it, it's uncomfortable, fast forward and think about the feeling that you'll feel once you turned that around. Would you feel more in control? Would you feel more powerful? Would you feel more confident? Would you feel more satisfied? It would feel good, wouldn't it? How would you feel if your competition passed you. For those of you who are competitive like me, sometimes I will use this one. I used it way back in the day in my high school sports career. It would make me practice, because when I didn't feel like practicing, I would picture my competition out there practicing. I would picture my competition out there beating me on the court. And I do it the same way in business today. I have a few friendly, business buddies that we compete with certain things, and this motivates me. How would you feel if this decision led to your promotion? Maybe there's a tough decision that you're trying to make. You just can't think about, I don't know. I don't know what's the best way to go. Fast forward. Think about a future event. Think about, again, this is the positive side of that, but you could also flip it into a negative side as well. Here's another one. How would you feel if you had a published book by the end of the year? I love to add time frames onto things. I love to add, whether it's 90 days, whether it's by the end of the year, whether it's 6 months, whatever it is. One thing's for certain. You and I are both going to, if, God willing, and we survive and we keep living, like, it sounds like a long time away sometimes, especially if you're in January and you're thinking, oh gosh, I'm just setting my New Year's resolutions. Well, a year from now, that's so long, right? But isn't that time going to pass anyways? Whether you do anything or not, you will arrive at the end of the year, and you are either going to look back and go, I blew it again. I said I was going to do that. I didn't do it. But how would you feel if by the end of the year, you did do that thing? You did publish that book. You did get in shape. See, if you constantly fast forward and feel those feelings, sometimes just that gives you enough reason to act, reason to do. And that solves your motivation problem. And if you have that, studies show that you are likely to continue. You're likely to act, even when you're not feeling it in the moment, even when it feels hard in the moment, even when you can't muster up that energy, even when you're sleep deprived, even when you don't have that creative idea. If you go there first in your mind to generate that feeling, to really live it, breathe it, feel what it feels like, you can help yourself in the present. So a magic question for you. How would you feel if you're struggling to feel motivated? I encourage you to write this question down at the top of your page and just brainstorm two sides: the fear of losing something and the positive feelings of gaining something. And just list out as many as you can. Figure out the one that triggers you the most and use it as a weapon. Studies show historically that we're actually more motivated by the fear of loss than we are of gaining something, which is why sometimes people don't act until they're up against the wall and they're about to lose something. Maybe it's always good to have something in mind that you could lose if you don't do that thing that maybe you're procrastinating on. Interesting thing to think about, isn't it? So the next time you hear that word motivation, remember, it's a reason to do or a reason to act. And if you're fuzzy on what that reason is, go to the feelings. Fast forward to the feelings, because we have this amazing potential as human beings to think ahead, to plan, not just strategically, but emotionally. And it's because of our emotions that we first make our decisions, and then later we justify them with logic. So use it as a tool. It's how we're already programmed. We may as well work with the current instead of against it, right? Big Unchained Rider group hug, virtual high fives all around. Thank you all for being here. Proud of you. And until next time, as always, I'll be cheering for you all.